Okay, it's super important that you know that if you're choosing the website option, you need to be tech savvy. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time to teach everyone how to create a Google site if you are totally unfamiliar with it. There's just not enough time to complete that project. So if you're not good with technology, you should probably choose one of the other options because it's going to be more of a headache for you to have to mess with the technology and figure it out. You're also going to want to make sure that you have a phone, a camera, or a way to take a photo of a coordinate graph and then be able to upload the image to the computer. Like, even though you can't connect to Wi Fi, you need to make sure that your phone or your iPod, whatever, can somehow get the picture that you took with it on to the Google site. So if your only way is to use Wi-Fi and the Wi-Fi is shut off during the day, then unfortunately this option probably will not be good for you either. In this screencast, you'll be given an introduction on the creating the Google website option on transformations and also the basics of how to create a Google site. So you're going to want to make sure that you have this information sheet next to you as you watch the screencast so that you can take a couple notes on it and also follow along so you know what's required. So the objective is to demonstrate your knowledge and ability to perform transformations including translations, reflections, and rotations. And for this option, you'll create a website using Google Sites. So I'm going to kind of walk through this and show you an example website that has just like a skeleton of what it has to contain. It doesn't have the information on it. You'll have to do that yourself, but at least you'll get a good idea of what it needs to have on it. So your website must contain, I'm going to do this first part. You need to have an eye-catching homepage, which is where people first start when they go to your website. So on that homepage, you need to have a title for the homepage, something about transformations. It needs to have an image that represents transformations, information on what transformations are, and then information on how transformations are applied in the real world. So I'm going to show you an example of that right now. So if this were a student's web page, this would be their homepage. They have their title, Tales of Transformations, and you can be as creative as you want with your homepage title. They have an eye-catching image, and we're going to expect that yours is a little bit more eye-catching than this. You can go on Google and find all sorts of really awesome images on transformations. So they have just kind of an overview of transformations and how they're represented, but you can be really creative with that. And then there's two pieces of information that need to be on the home page. And you can break your home page down just like this. So two sections. The two pieces of information that need to be on there. The first one is what are transformations? So in this section, you're going to need to answer that question. What are transformations? You should have about 3 to 5 sentences. And if you're not quite sure how to easily summarize what transformations are, you can look in your book or online if you need information. No plagiarizing, so just an example, if you're going to look in your book, this is a page in the book, page 50, about transformations, and so there's a sentence right here that gives you an idea of what transformations are, so you can use that to help you out. Also on the home page, you need that section about how transformations are applied in the real world, so that will be the second part of your home page. You can make another heading that says transformations in your life, and then answer the question, how do they relate to the real world? If you're not sure, quick hop online and find a couple ways that transformations come up in the real world. So this is the home page, kind of giving us the big idea that this site is going to be all about transformations. Then jumping back to the information sheet. So after you have your home page, you need one tab or subpage for each type of transformation. So you need a page for translations, a page for reflections, and a page for rotations. And so I'll quickly show you up at the top. We have a page for translations, a page for reflections, and a page for rotations here. Okay, then on each of those subpages, you must have the following. So you're going to have a coordinate graph that contains a pre-image and image made up of 3 points that create a scalene triangle. Okay, a scalene triangle is a triangle where all 3 side lengths are different lengths, and you'll have the coordinates for the pre-image and image that are accurately listed and labeled. So in order to do that, your teacher has given you some blank graphs that look like this. before you can put these on the website, you're going to need to draw a triangle on there and then either translate it, reflect it, rotate it, and possibly dilate it, and then get your coordinates on there, describe the translation, and then you'll be ready to put it on your website. So once you have that done by hand on your information sheet, it says you must create this by hand, take a photo of it, and then upload it to your web page. So you can see on this translation page here, this student, if this were an example for this student, they took that. You're going to create it by hand. I know this one's typed, but you're going to do yours by hand. And you will plot your scalene triangle, label every single point, which is not done on here, every single image point with the prime mark, label the coordinates, and then describe the translation or reflection or rotation that took place. So the directions that gets someone from your pre-image to your image, whether you moved left, right, up, down, and how many units, or if you're comfortable writing a translation rule such as x plus or minus a certain amount and y plus or minus a certain amount, you can definitely do that. So that covers including the coordinate graph. The other piece of information that you need on your web page for each tab is written information. And so that information needs to discuss the basics of the transformation, such as the definition, key vocabulary, how it's performed. You need to discuss how the transformation affects the size, shape, and orientation, and then a unique fact about the transformation. So I will show you here on the translation page. Okay, you're going to have 3 headings, just those 3 things I mentioned. So your first heading, the basics of translation. So you need about 3 to 5 sentences. You need the definition of what is a translation. You should be using the key vocabulary such as horizontal, vertical. Again, if you're not quite sure how to how to summarize what a translation is, you can always check in your textbook. This is on that same page 50. There's information here about the translation that you can use to help you fill in this section about the basics. What is it? The next section you'll need to have is how does the translation affect the size, shape, and orientation. So size meaning how big or small the image gets, shape meaning how the angles get from the pre-image to the image, and then orientation means the way it's facing. So again, about 3 to 5 sentences for that section. And the last section on each page needs to be something unique about that type of transformation. So in this case, something unique about translations. Try to impress your teacher. You can look online if you can't come up with ideas. And this one is really open-ended. There's really not a wrong unique fact as long as you didn't already mention it for the basics or the effect on size, shape, and orientation. So that is what you're going to do for every type of transformation. And so you can see there's a tab for translations, okay, a tab for reflections that has the same 3 headings. So the basics, the effect on size, shape, and orientation, and something unique about reflections. Same with rotations. You've got the basics, effect on size, shape, and orientation, and then something unique about rotations. Okay, the other part on this information sheet is vocabulary words that you really should be including in those written responses to the 3 subheadings about the basics, size, shape, orientation, and unique facts. You're going to want to make sure that you include these vocabulary words in order to accurately elaborate and describe that you know about the certain type of transformation. If you are interested in an extra credit option, you can create another tab for dilations. So you would go to your web page building and add a dilations tab, or you could also take a video of you plotting your triangle and then translating, reflecting, or rotating it, and filling out the coordinates and describing the translation. You can take a video of that process, and instead of uploading a picture of this graph, you could upload a video of you actually performing the translation, reflection, or rotation. So that's an extra credit option as well. One quick thing I want to make sure that you pay attention to, when you are doing your description for the reflection, before you take a picture of this and upload it to your web page, you need to make sure that you're describing it accurately. So you should be describing your reflection as you reflect the pre-image over what axis. And then for your rotation, you need to describe how did you rotate your pre-image. Did you rotate it 90, 180, 270? Did you rotate it clockwise, counterclockwise? So make sure you do that before you take a picture of this page and upload it to your web page. I'm going to go through the checklist with you, which is on the back of the information page. You're going to want to make sure that before you submit your final product that you check off to make sure you completed each part, because this is how your teacher's going to grade you. They're going to take the checklist and they're going to take your project, go side by side, and check off what you have fully completed so that you can get the points for it. So for the transformation, this is the home page. Your home page has to be eye-catching, has to have an eye-catching graphic. It has the complete definition of a transformation, and then it discusses the real-world applications of the transformations. And then for each tab, that is the next section. So translation has to be the pre-image was translated correctly, all points were labeled with their correct letter and prime mark, coordinates were accurately listed, you described the translation, you completed the basics of the translation, accurately described the translation, including horizontal and vertical. This is really important. You notice you needed to use the words horizontal and vertical when you're completing that section about the basics. And then you describe the effect on size, shape, and orientation, and you provide an interesting and unique fact about translations. For reflection and rotation, you're going to want to make sure that you read all of these parts here. Notice when you're talking about the basics of reflections, you're including the line of reflection. What does that mean? And then for rotation, you're including the angle of rotation, clockwise and counterclockwise in that section about the basics of rotations. Other requirements, you should have a clean, the layout and design should be easy to read and eye-catching. You use appropriate vocabulary, and then written responses are in complete sentences with punctuation. Okay, in this next part of the screencast, I'm going to quickly show you how to create a Google site if you're not familiar. So if you're in your Drive, you're going to click on the option, this 9-box option, and you're going to click on Sites. And then you're going to go to the left and look for this Create button, and this is super important. Everyone is going to create their site in New Sites. You're not going to choose in Classic Sites, so you're going to click in New Sites. And then this gives you a blank shell for your new site. So it's super easy to add, drag things around. If this was your home page, you can title it something Transformations. Hopefully you'll have a much clever title there so that your teachers are interested when they're going through your site, and that it would be eye-catching and appealing. So if this is your home page, if you want to then add the tabs, you know you need a tab for translation, reflection, rotation. You just click on Pages, and then down towards the bottom, you're going to add a page, translation. You can add another page, reflection. You can add another page, rotation. And then you can see they're populated at the top here. And the way you name the pages is kind of how the heading appears on that page. So if I go back to my home page, to insert an image, you can either go to Images, which you can look for by a URL. You can search for it online. If you have albums in your Google Drive, chances are you probably don't have an image in your Drive. Or you can upload. So if you save something on your desktop, you could upload it that way. So I'll just quickly show you in Images here, if I am going to search for transformation triangle, because I want something for my home page that's eye-catching. Now this is super not eye-catching, so don't choose this. But once you click on what image you want, you can resize it, drag it where you want it, and then you can also create your headings. And so insert text box, and remember on the home page we needed to have something about what are transformations. And you can drag and move these all over the place. You guys are really tech savvy, so you're going to make sure that yours is really eye-catching and really appealing. When you get to the part where you need to upload your graph, so you're going to need to figure out how you're taking a picture of it, and then are you sending it to your email, saving it on your desktop, that's for you to figure out. But then you can just upload whatever your file is and drag it and put it on your page. So that is the part that everyone must have. You must have created that by hand and then upload it to each tab: translation, reflection, rotation. The other thing that you're going to make sure that you are choosing what you want to do for a theme. So make it eye-catching. There are a ton of themes on here. You can decide what you want. Just make sure that it's legible, that you're not writing in a font that's yellow or something that's hard to read. Once you are done with your pages, you can click on the little eye, and this will let you preview it. And so you can click on your tabs, make sure they're how you want them. And I'll go back to edit. Okay, and when you're all done, you need to click publish. So your web address, you can call it like Math Unit 2 Project. You probably have to find a unique name. So you'll click publish. And then that means it's live for anyone to see your site. Your teacher will tell you how you're going to turn in your web page, whether you're going to email the link or put it on Google Classroom. So make sure you check with them on how you're going to publish your site. After you've published it, you can still make changes. Just make sure that you go back to the editing version. And then if you're trying to find your site, if you go back to here when you clicked on Google Sites, to find your site, it's probably not listed here, but if you go down towards the bottom, New Google Sites, this is where your sites would be. And this actually makes a good point. I never actually named my site, so on my Google Sites it's called Untitled, so I should make sure that I go back and title it up here so that when I save my Google site, it will save with a name.